Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'll take a fresh start again for all those people who might have just joined me. Sorry about little delay like this. Let's start with the dua. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem amma ba'd fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim bismillahir rahmanir rahim rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. So I told you about this verse from Surah Al-Anfal that it definitely or indeed it's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have this parenting job, and every time, I mean, whether your kid is a newborn or a toddler or a school going kid or a teenager, it's a big challenge for all of us. So now what we do is, how do we sort of bring ourselves to it, that we do it? We tell ourselves, this is my job, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me this job, so inshallah, if Allah wills, I will carry on with it. So parenting confusions, a lot of them, we don't know where to draw where to be good loving parents, where to look at their disappointments or channelize ourselves or channelize our children, and in the whole process we have a burnout. So we need to have a win-win philosophy, and we need to understand why loving, nurturing relationships are very important for us. Number one thing, because through relationships, children, they learn about this world. Now, because a lot of time when the parents, they're thinking about improving the relationship, honestly speaking, what I feel they are thinking about is that they want children who listen to them, who do whatever parents want them to do. But the purpose of having these relationships is we want children to be healthy throughout their life. Also remember this thing, that because through relationships, children learn to express themselves. Well, right now we're talking about parents having a bonding with the child, but I would also bring in like siblings. They don't have this bonding among themselves, and siblings are always like, in a fix. Our parents are in a fix related to the sibling, but we have to understand that in this dealing, they learn how to deal with different scenarios. Similarly, we also need to understand that when we respond in a loving and a gentle and a very nice, appreciative manner towards our children, they learn the right ways of communication, right behaviors, and right emotions. So basically, what we're doing is, through these relationships, through this loving, through this bonding, we want to make our children feel very safe and secure, and we need to give them this feeling that the family is there with them. Second important thing that these children, they would learn is that what is your relationship with others. Like when you're talking about bonding with them, they would be always looking at how your relationship is, how you developmentally see your child, then how you are communicating not only with your child but also with the other rest of the family members, like husband, wife, how they're communicating with each other. Then they would also be looking at if you are with your in-laws or even with your parents or even with your lot of other interactions that are around. So children will be learning through that as well. And this shows that your child would learn how to behave with others and how people in return behave with them. So this is going to be like, an opportunity for your children to understand all these areas. So there has to be positive parent-child relationship. This is what we focus on. And how do we do that? If you focus on these three areas, that is going to bring in that strong bonding with your child no matter what the age is. Number one, being in the moment with your child. This is something that is practiced a lot in these times, which is called mindfulness. So when you are mindful, you are living in the moment with your child, that's when you start seeing results. Second is, and inshallah I'm going to give you more detailed pointers as we move on from here. Secondly, what we understand is we need to learn to spend quality time with our children. So third important thing is we create a very caring environment of trust and respect. So just remember these three important areas, and also remember to sort of apply these into day-to-day life or when you are dealing with these children. So let's start with What does it mean by being in that moment? First thing that you have to do is you tune in and you think about what's going on in your child's life, because a lot of time we are self-centered in a way that we are only thinking about our responsibilities, our emotions, what we need to do in a particular situation. Why? Because we have multiple dimensions around us and we are dealing with multiple challenges around us. And because of that, what actually happens is, as I said earlier, there is a burnout, and because of that, we are not actually in the moment thinking about the child. I have often seen mothers who are driving around taking their kids from one place to another, and they're still thinking about what's the next job at my hand, or what's something which is bothering me and how do I fix that. They are not actually communicating anything to their children. So what we do is, how we can be in the moment, you show acceptance and let your child be who he is. Now, having said that, doesn't mean that if your child wants to have a night out, a party time, be in the bad company, do a fashion which is haram, you give them green signal for that. But acceptance that yes, you are young, and when you are young, I do understand you have emotions like this. Acceptance that yes, I do understand your temperament, but at the very same time, I also understand how I'm going to be dealing with this temperament. I need to learn to deal with this behavior, whether it is difficult or it sounds apparently easy for me. So acceptance. Second is, you notice what your child is doing and you comment on it in an encouraging manner. A lot of time what happens is, whenever you go around and you're trying to talk to your children, you only, for example, you go in the room of your child and today was the cleaning day, so you enter the room and you don't appreciate anything or everything, and you just look at something which is out of place and you point to that. So that is something which really makes these children upset, that we are not getting any encouragement from the parents. So living in the moment means, right now, out of 5 things or 2 things that my kid has done, irrespective of the age and temperament and whatever the situation, it's a lockdown or it's a regular routine that I'm following. I'm a working mom, I'm a homemaker, I live with large family, I have a lot of challenges. Irrespective of everything, in that moment, you notice something that your child did, it was right, and you appreciate that child. Then another important thing about being in the moment is you listen to your child and you try to tune in to what he's really saying. Because sometimes when the kids are trying to convey something to us, they are doing it through their behavior. Like a very young child when throwing tantrum means what? Is trying to grab our attention. Like older kid when is coming to us and repeatedly asking our permission to wearing a short shirt, or asking our permission to whether he or she can go to a certain party, and we don't want them to go to that party. So what actually happens is that these kids, they get upset. They are like, why my mom is just shouting or screaming at me or getting upset and giving me lectures when I actually went to take permission from her. So thinking that, my kids, they respect me, that's why they came to me with a certain query, certain question. Yes, we need a lot of sabr for that. Then think about what your child's behavior is telling you, which will give you a lot of cues as to what actually your kids' needs are. And yes, again, you can work on those areas. And giving them opportunity to take a lead in certain situations. Like sometimes we always keep thinking of them as babies, and I'm sure many of your kids would tell you, Mom, I've grown up, I'm no longer a baby. So you need to give them this opportunity to prove through their actions that they are not babies. For example, if you see them a lot more on screen, so being in the moment, you can tell them that, okay, I will allow you to have your phone at a certain age when like they're 17 or 18 and you have to get them a phone, but you tell them you have to prove your worth, that you are like an adult. This is exactly what I do when I'm dealing with difficult children in my class environment. I usually, when I ask the kid, how old are you? And the kids would say, I'm 11, I'm 10. So I would tell them, but right now, your behavior in the class is like a kid who is 6-year-old or a 7-year-old. So would you like to move back to that class? And they give me this horrific expression. They're like, no, ma'am, I want to stay in my class. So then I give them list of behaviors which are expected of them. So giving them a lead always helps. Okay, second important thing that we talked about is spending quality time. What would be this quality time? Quality time can happen anywhere and anytime. Also remember that the quality time is not about quantity. Like you could be with your kid the whole day. Like these days, we are with them the whole day. But is it quality time? And I think that's what is missing out in many places, that moms are totally lost as to what we need to be doing. And honestly speaking, this pandemic and lockdown has taught me so many lessons for my own family, and also for what I'm looking at the scenario around from the perspective of parenting. We were going Zoom speed in such a different kind of time zone that we were missing parenting, we were missing our children, we were missing that easy, slow pace. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just cut out everything, that Zoom speed from us, and put everything at halt and wants us to enjoy these blessings that we have. But right now, the moment, it's like you were going Zoom speed and put your foot on the brake, and you immediately stopped your car, and it's going in a big swirl, and you're totally lost and you're totally shattered and you don't know what to do about it. So that is something that we have to be very, very careful about, that what we do. So we have to look at how we take care of our children. How do we do that? The quality time means we spend quality time in such a manner we show that they are valuable and we appreciate them, and we give them positive messages with smile, laughter, eye contact, hug, gentle touches. For example, they can come into the kitchen where you're cooking, and you don't give them a lecture, but what you do is you just smile and laugh, and you ask them, can I make you a smoothie? Or if you're baking something, can you also do something, for the rest of your siblings or for someone around you? So, something that brings a smile and laughter. But sometimes I've seen mothers or parents who start cracking jokes, but when they are cracking these jokes are not appropriate, and children, then they start crossing those boundaries. Then you try to plan one-to-one time with each one of your children, and especially with this lockdown, parents ask me, how would I do it? You have to remember all your children have different personalities, different temperament, different age groups, and their time requirement is also very different. But what you can do is, for example, if you are going out grocery, you can take one of them with you, and on the way you can just have chit chat. For example, for one of them could be a bedtime in which you put them to bed and you are doing story with them. For one of them, it could be their homework or study time, or just sitting and just doing some house chore. So for each one of them, you can identify what would they want to do and make it into a pleasant experience for them. And third important factor is trust, caring, and respect. This is very, very important that we develop trust with them. And in the very early years, when a kid is pulling on mom or looking around for mom, this is because of that trust. And for the older one, you can see the level of trust, or the kind of chores that you perform, which are going to bring in trust, are obviously going to be different. And for this trust, caring, and respect, what you have to do is be available for them whenever they need you. They have to understand that if there is a challenge in my life and I go and I talk to my mom or my dad, they are there for me. They would listen to me. They wouldn't immediately attack my personality. They would value me for who I am. And they would allow that relationship to develop because of all these, my needs or my interests. And yes, in this trust, caring, and respect, what you do is you do set some firm but very fair kind of rules. Now, after understanding these three important areas, I still come back to this thing. If you have a child who is rebellious and is refusing to get off the car, or is refusing to do a certain thing that you want to do, and you are running short of time, and there's so many things that you don't know how to do, so what would you do? Okay. We have Habiba. She's saying, I need some suggestions on how to handle 17-year-old daughter. Yes, we're talking about all age groups, because there are mothers who have a younger age group. They have mothers who have older age group. Okay. So let's see. This is a child who will rebel. Now, then we come to a little older age group. Now, this is a child who, no matter what you do, there will be, even after the consequences on the last tantrum, he'll again come up to you with the tantrum. Now, this is a child who is going now towards school and there is no respect. And then this is a child who is a teenager with a lot of attitude. Now, what you need to understand, let me go back on these pictures and tell you, if you have a rebellious child, you can say he's a toddler and rebellious, what you need to understand is how to distract this child, understanding the personality of the child, how to have discipline in right places, and how to, in a very smooth manner, get him to do what you have to do. For that, you have to be really proactive. When the children are little grown up, like the age of 2 to 3 years, you would find out they are the ones who are throwing a lot of tantrums. And this is where mothers, they keep sending me messages that how do I handle a child with a tantrum? Well, very easy. What you have to do is read about these childhood tantrums and then address those tantrums in that manner. You will find thousands and thousands of articles on the internet which will be telling you that. Then it comes to another child who is going to have, for whom you need to have lessons on respect, that this child is going way out of that range of respect. How do you teach them respect? Again, you need to be maintaining your cool to teach them respect. Now, so remember, when the kids are small, they are young, and you are focusing on how to handle them and at the very same time keep having that strong bond with them, that's when they enter the age of teenage, and they still have this bonding with you, but yes, there are going to be many areas where they will show you a lot of attitude. But if you have not been able to handle all those areas when they were in the toddler age group, when they were throwing tantrums, when they were disrespectful, when they were young, and so many other places, then your challenge is going to multiply. But inshallah, during this session, we are going to be talking about what to do, how would we handle these situations. Now, there's certain principles which apply whether it is a toddler, whether it is a school-going kid, elementary classes, junior high, high grades, whatsoever, which includes be there in the moment, which includes trust and respect, which includes having some quality time with them. So you encourage and you give choices and you set limitations to them. Now, children, they need thoughtful guidance and firm enforcement of limits. So, especially with teenagers, if you are more interested in teenagers, as I said, the same formula applies for every age group, if you ask me. But yes, teenage is a little more challenging than the rest of the ages. So for children, whatever age, and especially if teenager, you have to, whether when you tell them, yes, I would allow you, or yes, if you do that, you will get this permission, you have to think of all the consequences, all the strings attached before you say yes or before you say no. A lot of time what the children do is they sit on your head and they're trying to be like a pleaser for you. They're trying to talk to you in a softer tone because they need certain permission from you, or they're trying to apply certain pressure on you. So what you can do is when they want the answer there and then, it is very simple for you to immediately say, give me like a day or two and let me think about it and then I'll get back to you. And in that time frame, obviously you can take some advice from someone, you can think about it, you can discuss it, you can look into the pros and cons of it. Then you need to have set limits for the safety of the child and how his behavior can affect others. Like if your kid is giving you difficult time, any age it could be, and it is not good for the safety, then what you need to understand is you have to still reinforce that limit even if the child doesn't like it. And you have to maintain that limit to help child understand that they are responsible for their actions. If they behave in a, for example, if you give me attitude, I'm so sorry, it will be very difficult for me to allow you a certain thing. And the kids come up and say, well, I'm a grown-up person. I'm almost 17 or 18 or 19. And you tell them, if you behave as a 17 or 18-year-old should behave, only then you will be allowed to have this certain privilege. And that you can say without shouting, screaming, giving attitude. So kids, they resent guidelines, they rebel firm limits because they think different as they have different environment. I think there are going to be many of the mothers right now over here, and some of you might be listening to this talk later on, where your kids, especially in teenage, when you give them a no, a big no onto something that they're desperate for, and they say, you are such a cruel mom and I wouldn't do this to my kids. I'm pretty sure many of you heard this from your kids, that I will never do this to my kids. And my kids also tell me, just yesterday, my two daughters are in teenage. So one of them said to me, I will never do this to my kids. And every time they say this to me, I just laugh it off and I say, the tragedy is I used to say the same to my mom. And I ended up doing exactly what she was doing. And then my daughter would again say, but I wouldn't do it. So then I say, Inshallah, I hope, if you don't have to do that, that will be really great. And if I am alive till that time, I would really enjoy that you have different way of raising your kids. So why do I have to give them big lectures on that? Let's make it into a pleasant experience, because for me, the important thing is I want to encourage them. I made my point and I'm not letting them do a certain thing. But again, the bonding has to be there. So love, protection, and care, when we talk about it, all of the kids, any age, they need that. Infants, they need total protectiveness. And that's why they're always clingy, always there with us. The rest of the age group of the children, for them, we can give them a gradual allowance so that they can problem solve. This should be our target for them. And for teens, we need to put in such an effort that we have such a strong bonding with them that they understand that they can make important decisions for themselves with the parental input. And that's where we need to bring them. Our bonding has to be in such a manner that our children understand that. But having said that, there is a parenting struggle. You have to concentrate on the child's weakness. No matter how much you try, if you understand, for example, if you have a child who takes a lot of peer pressure, what are you going to do about that child? Would you let him be on his own to be with his friends? No, you can't. You have to be extra vigilant and careful. Or you're living in a neighborhood where all the kids are very nasty. Or then sometimes we end up telling our children continuously about the weakness that they have, and we forget how we can build on the strength of our children. This just automatically happens with us. And children, they spend most of their emotional energy looking for proof of this parental perception. Now, over here, I'm going to give you a list of dialogues that we say, and they're so commonly heard by our children. But let's see how they breach that relationship with our children. Yes, Faiza, we are so reactive rather than being proactive, and that's what we need to work on. Now, when you say, what are you doing that for? You know what the kid hears? You are not very competent. When we say, I have told you 1,000 times, this is again a very common remark. And sometimes when I say this to my girls, that I have told you 1,000 times, so they start counting and they're like, Mom, we will wait till you complete your 1,000 because you just said so. So now I have started actually counting the times when I say it. And that actually means what the kids are hearing is, you are dumb. Even when we don't say it, even when you're not shouting, maybe you're screaming, but that is going to, as I said earlier, going to breach that relationship. When we say, why you're not wearing your coat, your jacket, or your scarf, or whatsoever, the kids, they understand you are not smart enough to know what to wear. When we say, don't argue, turn off your TV or screen, they hear you can't figure out answer for yourself. So how do we handle? What is the right thing or the right thing to say so that our relationship stays in the right picture? So what we say so that kids can hear right. When I say, I will let you decide that for yourself, the kid will hear, you can decide as you are capable. I will give you one more chance. The kid comes to you and they have messed up somewhere and you say, you didn't handle well, but there is room for improvement. So we need to very wisely pick the sentences that we talk about. One of the counselor that I work with sometimes, and I consult them sometimes, even sometimes for my own kids and my friends that I know, they say that what mothers especially need to do when the children are in teenage or even earlier than that, they have to actually rehearse the dialogues, the sentences, the remarks that they have to make in front of their kids so as to make them very impactful. So if someone decides like that, what was missed? The kid would hear, you are smart enough to think where you went wrong. Let them find out. For example, you are angry, you're upset. Sometimes the kids would come to you. They would ask you, can I over the weekend go somewhere? And you can just give them this very nice smile and say, what do you think, or what do you expect my answer would be? And your kids would tell you, I know you wouldn't allow me. Then again, you can say it with a smile that, well, then what's the use of wasting your words on that? Let's do something for which I will say yes. So you can always make those. The kids obviously are going to have a long face. They wouldn't like it. They would be angry. But for us as parents, the important thing is, let's never break that connection with our children, and let's keep working on our sentences. So, what are the different blunders of this unconditional love that we have with our children? Withholding love to make children behave. Please never do that. I will never love you, or get out of my life, or I wish you were not there. I have actually come across moms who have such difficult time with their children, especially in teenage, that they end up telling me that, Dr. Kamal, I have actually started hating my daughter or my son. I actually don't feel any love for my kid. And this is something that is so scary, and we don't want to go over there. Second is, sometimes what parents do is they give their kids too much love because they want to please their kids, so that whatever needs to be done could be done. Again, I wouldn't approve of that. And sometimes parents' love depends upon the school achievement or a certain criterion that they have set up in their mind, that if my kid does this, because I love eating apples and I think apples or milk are very healthy. So if my kid drinks apple, I love my kid. If my kid prays, I love my kids. Performs salah, I love my kids. Does hifz, I love my kid. No, this is not it. You have to understand this terminology, unconditional love. Unconditional love means, because you are my kid, so I love you anyways. But if you do something wrong, I would not be letting you do it. This is also known as tough love. Tough love is another area where we explore the very, very difficult children and how we can still have a relationship with them, still have bonding with them, and at the very same time have stopped them from doing something which is harmful. Okay, so there are two terminologies again for the bonding that you have to understand: praise and encouragement. For example, there is a child who has messed up anything. It could be the toys, or it could be any boundary that you have set up for them, or they have drawn a picture and it's horrific. They haven't done the job. They are not studying. So you have to understand that bonding comes into place when you show praise and mutual respect, and you judge the goodness of that action. Yeah, like sometimes your kids these days, they would be telling you, let us cook something, let us go in the kitchen and cook something. And when they come out of the kitchen, it's such a big mess that it gives you a headache, and you would have just made that food in 1 hour, and now with whatever mess they have created in the kitchen, you spend 3 hours cleaning it up, and then you're so upset with your children, and then you keep telling them, next time I'm not letting you go in the kitchen. And the kids would apparently get so upset that, like, we try to make an effort to please our parents, that today we are going to cook something, and they are not even happy with that. So praising comments, they don't fit in with the child's self-image at times, and that is also a problem. Sometimes we are trying to be too pleasing towards our children. They're failing, they're flunking, they're not doing anything, and we are saying, oh, mashallah, my kid would be doing great in this life. Encouragement is something where there's no connection to the relationship. It could be good, bad, or neutral, but you keep working on the behavior of your child, and you keep evaluating that behavior, and you accept, and the child learns to accept that evaluation even when it is hard. So there are things that you need to understand is you have to set firm, loving limits with your children. You need to understand what are the important things to do. And then if you want to have a strong bonding with your children, you give them choices rather than just refusing, because the moment you tell them, no, you can't do it, that's when they're going to be really upset with you. So what you do is, you don't tell them to act in a certain way, don't show your frustration, or if there's further misbehavior, you respond by the question, and make sure you enforce one of the choices. Like, If you want them to be off the screen and you have told them that you're off the screen and they say we are bored or we want more screen, you can tell them, at this time you have two choices. Either you can sleep or you can read a book. And when you're telling them this, then you are not showing your frustration, you're showing the clarity of mind, and you are definitely leaving an impact that I'm not breaking the bond. And let's say the kid goes in his or her room banging the door, and then later on they are talking to you and they are telling you that you are so unfair. You say, can we move on please? Can we talk about something else? So you have to really maintain your calm in all those places. So basically, whenever there is a problem, you need to understand how to empathize to handle that problem and give back that consequence to your child in a very loving manner. And for that, you need to understand how to set limits for your children. For setting the limits, remember the limit setting starts at the age of 6 months. Yes, by 6 months, when the child is trying to touch something and you tell them no, but at the very same time you have a smile on your face. So the boundaries we set for children are in reality the boundaries we basically are setting for ourselves. Like a lot of parents, when they ask me that I don't know how to communicate a certain concept to my kid, is because they are totally confused on how to apply those principles repeatedly and what are the kind of keywords that they use all the time. So even if they know all your options all the time, you can keep repeating it. If we can't order kids, how will we set the limits? So we need to learn how we can order the kids, but at the very same time, remember what are the limits required for any particular age group. Like newborn, you will cuddle the newborn, but obviously you would protect him from anything which is harmful. For a crawling baby, for a kid who wants to run in the street, you're going to hold the hand. For a kid who doesn't want to stay in the room or doesn't want to study but play, how you have to guide them towards actually studying. So bonding is about talking to the children. And for that, what you need to do is differentiate between fighting words and thinking words. What's the difference between these words? This is our talking cycle. We issue a command and they sit as if they haven't heard it. We are on mute. We give them more commands and they're still on mute. We show sternness, we get angry, and then there are loud voices exchanged between the two. And this is something which keeps happening. So the issue is not resolved in any way. And we keep seeing that basically the kids, they are ready for this fight, because at that time we'll tell them, go to your room and you're grounded. And the kids say, oh, finally I'm back in my room and I don't have to see my parents, I don't have to take their commands, and I can be on my own. So when parents ask me, what are we supposed to do? Let's see. We need to understand the difference between the fighting words and, as I said, thinking words. So the impact of what you say is also very important. Child says something loud and unkind to the parent. The fighting words are, don't you talk to me in this tone of voice. And when you say that, the kids, how do they respond? They shout back at you. But the thinking words are, you look upset. I'll be very glad to listen to you when your voice is as soft as mine. So you're not breaking a relationship. You are maintaining your boundary or bond with your children, and at the very same time, you are teaching them to be respectful. I recall one of my kids when he was around 9-10 years old, would be picking up a fight with the siblings and would come to me shouting and screaming and crying at the top of the voice. So I would always have to sit back, look at the child and tell the child, I'm so sorry, I'm not able to understand a single word. Because what the child initially thought was that if the mother sees a crying child, so she would have all the sympathies for him or her. But when I said, I'm so sorry, I'm not able to understand a single word that you're saying, or what's the situation, unless you calm down and you talk to me in a polite manner and a soft and a settled manner, I will not be able to help you. So this way, my bonding would be there with the child, and at the very same time, I saw that within few episodes, the kid learned that I would only be responding to him when there was a nicer, presentable way of communicating to me. Now, the child is dawdling with her homework. She is not focusing on her homework. So the fighting words would be, you get to work on your studying. And when you say that, I have actually seen mothers holding a chappal, a shoe, a stick, and so many things like that. But what are the thinking words? Feel free to join us in lawn when your studying is done. That's it. So the bottom line you're telling the kid is, this is study time. When you're done, only then you can come out and do what you want to do. I recall last weekend I wanted my girls, because they are in that age, put away their screen time and focus on cleaning their rooms, and they just wanted to procrastinate and then be on their screen. So what I did was I took hold of the screens, put it on my table where I was working, and I told them, and they came to me, and I just looked at them and I said, okay, take a shower, have a breakfast. And then they again came back to me, and in a very nice smiling manner I said, okay, clean your rooms, I'm going to help you if you need it. And I starting from 9 a.m. in the morning till about 3 p.m. in the evening, we were on different chores, and finally I allowed them this screen time with a smile, with a thank you, and no sarcasm or no tantrums or anything. So I'm pretty sure my girls wouldn't admit it, but they did realize that it was a lot of fun. It was nice and respectable. And we were like, fine by the end of the day as well. Okay, now two kids, they are fighting. So what do? Fighting words would be nice to each other, quit fighting. And thinking words would be, you're welcome to again come back as soon as you work that out. And trust me, this is such an effective way, and this is what something I have practiced, because many times when your kids are fighting and you're trying to sort out that issue, so one of them keeps talking about the other and says, and if you try to resolve that issue, so one would say, you love him or her, you always take his side or her side, and you never listen to me. And the parents I've seen are like, standing at the verge of something they don't understand. They're like, what am I supposed to do at this time if I try to fix this issue or challenge? So they always come back to me with more and more of these complaints. So what you do is, okay, so what you do at that time is that you tell them that you have to resolve this matter yourself, because when they're friends, they're best of buddies. When they're not friends, that's when they don't want to be doing something. I remember again with my own kids, when they're friends, and when they are at not good terms, they would come to me. Can you tell him or her to share something with me? And I would say, why don't you request him yourself? And they would say, well, when I request, he or she doesn't listen to me. So I say, well, when I request in a nicer way, they always respond to me. So maybe, you can use some good words for that. Yes, it works. Nafisa, it works with all the kids when you do it, but you have to keep doing it a lot of time. Like, for example, if you haven't tried it, and if you will do it again, if you start doing it now, obviously the kids will take time to settle down. And remember, the kids are going to give you attitude. Even my kids in this teenage, they would give me attitude, but I just maintain my calm. I just act as if their attitude is something that doesn't exist for me. I just completely ignore that. Okay, what kind of consequences? Yes, we'll be coming to that consequences, Rimsha. So child won't do his chores. What do you do then if the children don't do it? Fighting words would be, I want that work done now. But thinking words would be, I can allow you game as soon as your work is done. Okay, so what you do is, basically when we say bonding with our children, and we have lot of list of chores that we want them to do, and because that is something which is going to help streamline their life. So what you do at that time is, when the kids, you feel that they are not listening to you and you want them to do it, so simply what you have to do is you have to keep practicing these things. Okay, how to maintain this calm? Very easy. You do your stress management, you stay healthy in your eating habits, your sleep patterns, and also learn these techniques and keep applying these techniques. I mean, there are times when I also feel upset, and then I sit down and I ask myself, where did I go wrong? What words I chose to talk to my son or my daughter which did not give me the right results. And that's when I immediately start thinking that next time when similar situation arises, what am I going to do then? So the thinking words are: you insist on respect and obedience. You place responsibility of thinking and decision making on the child. And it helps kids do what we want them to do. And then children learn better from what they tell themselves than what we tell them. And with thinking and choice, then lesson sticks there, and that will help us have a better relationship with them. And one of the big fighting word which is not going to let us have a good rapport with our children is saying no. So I was reading in different places and says parents of 2-year-old use it 77% of time. First words many kids learn is no. And ultimately when they're grown up, they totally ignore it. They are like, let my mom or dad say it, because that's all they do all the time. And it means maybe or yes, because when we say no and we are pressurized, we are angry, we are on the edge. So our kids, they understand that, they can always manipulate us. So use it very seldom, but when you use it, you need to mean it. So I have seen a couple of parents who say no, and then they are constantly bickering, and ultimately they say, okay, go ahead and do it. What I do is when I say no, I stick to my no. And if I want to later on say yes, I make it into a sort of a reward for them for doing something else. So replace no with a yes to do something. How would you replace no with a yes? Okay, Shazia says, my friend's teenager daughter is very well behaved with others, but behaves very badly with her mother. Probably the mother is passive mother. She is not assertive. She needs to learn the right techniques, and she definitely needs to put a stop to what she's doing. At the very same time, the mother has to understand if she's constantly after her daughter's life, if she's picking on her, or if she is like not working on the relationship but trying to get things done, so definitely there is going to be challenge. Okay, what is the fighting word when we say no? No, you can't go out to play until you learn your lesson, rather than we can say yes, you can definitely go out and play once your lesson is done. Fighting word is no, you can't watch television. Thinking word is yes, you can watch it for a while if the list of chores are done. Okay, that's not fair. That is something we always hear from kids whenever we tell them you do a certain thing and you don't do a certain thing, and we feel that this is going to break up our relationship, and that's when we just let them do what they want to do, and ultimately we even regret that. So that you tell them when they say that's not fair, you say, I know it's not fair, but that's how the world works. That's how things are. And you can't stop us from doing a certain thing. And I say, well, I can because I'm a parent. So what if you're a parent? I say, well, tragically, this is my job and I have to do my job. Okay, Rahma saying, my 4-year-old, I have enrolled her in online Arabic class, but she is not interested at all. What can I do? You know what, Rahma, honestly speaking, 4-year-old is a very young age. So it depends if the teacher, how interactive the teacher is, how much time. I mean, like I would say for 4-year-old a child, 15 minutes is a good enough time, and it should be, again, very interactive class. So that's not fair. First, we do our job, then we get paid, then we enjoy food. It works for people all around us, so it will work for us. So what they find is not fair, tell them that the world doesn't run on their rules. So kids' special testing routine is this: anger, guilt, forgetfulness, they complain, they talk back, they throw a tantrum, and that's how they test us. And what we need, and that's when we go back to our old ways. So you have to be like on a high alert how kids are going to test you in everything. So what you do is you gain control through choices. Give them healthy choices. Like we find out in Surah Al-Ma'idah verse number 88, وَكُلُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي أَنْتُمْ بِهِ مُؤْمِنُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, eat of the things which Allah has provided for you, which are lawful, halal and good. So choices are like for example, I tell my girls that if there is a family, even within the family, within the mahrams, so they keep bringing me those short shirts. Can I wear this? Can I wear this? So I tell them this is within the bedroom, this is within the house boundary. when you go to your grandparents' house, this is where your shirt should be. This is like, I don't mind you wearing any color, any design, but this is where it should be. And similarly, I expect you in public place to be like this. I expect you with the screen to be like this. I expect you to be doing this thing like that. So that's what you keep telling them. Like, we find out there are a lot of ahadiths which talk about afdalul amal, what is the best of the deed. And one of the hadith says the best of the deeds is prayer, best of the deeds is kindness to the parents, best of the deed is, there's so many variety of deeds which have been given as best of the deed in different scenarios by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we also need to give them a lot of big variety on these things. I'm taking little more of the time because we started little late. So I hope that this is going to be fine with all of you. So okay, very quickly I'm moving on to last few slides, and then I will be taking your questions. We need to also understand, when we're talking about the boundary setting with our bonding and setting those boundaries with our kids, is this V of love. Now, V of love has to be inverted. The V has to go like this. Like, this means you release your kids with their responsibilities, with their bonding, which should be age appropriate. What I allow a certain child to do at a certain age, because he or she has shown the worth of it. Tragically, our relationship gets really bad when what we do is that we give them a lot of choices when they are young, and as they grow older, we start putting limitations to everything. So when you do that, that's when it becomes really challenging for the children, and that's when our relationship gets really affected. Okay, Fatma is saying, my daughter 14 years, son 9 years old, they want always hugging me. They need love, but I'm busy with my study and busy with housework. What should I do? Very easy, Fatma. I think you're blessed if you have children who want your time. You can make a timetable, and you can set a certain time where you give them quality. And later on, you can tell them, when I'm studying, this is what you can do. They can give you a flying kiss, or they can make you tea, or they can do some of their work, and then you can praise them once you're done with your classes. So wise parents, what they're going to do is impose natural consequences. We had this question, that how do we impose consequences? Consequences always have to be natural. Natural means, for example, if you use screen wrongly, your screen will be taken away, confiscated. If you don't eat on time, nobody's going to cook extra meal for you. If you are not able to find, because you didn't clean your room properly and you didn't put everything in place, and then you're running around screaming and shouting where my certain thing is, so nobody is going to find it for you. This is what I do. If my kid is running around looking for a thing, I just sit back and I ask them. They're like, pata nahi kidhar hai, I don't know where it is. And I just look at them, give them this smile and say, it should be where you put it. So go and find it over there. So they might think that mom, or sometimes, other family members in the family, they would look at you as if you're such an insensitive mom. But this is what I have to do. This is my job. I have to impose natural consequences. So whenever they do something, you have to be doing that. But at the very same time, you have to be empathetic. You have to tell them, I know you must be upset that you're not able to find something. This is also known as cause and effect. When something happens, so there is something that again goes in that direction. Okay. Okay, another thing that we have to do, learn empathy, is I'll give you quickly some situations. Ahmed misses dinner because he didn't go to do his chores on time. Angry words would be, don't do that again. Empathetic word would be, I know how it feels. I am hungry too, but when I miss my meal, but I will make you a big breakfast. So you don't actually go back in kitchen thinking that if I cook for them again, I open the kitchen, and then my relationship will improve. Now, Amna is tired in the morning because she stayed up too late. So angry words would be, I told you, you'll be tired if you don't go to bed on time. Now you're going to suffer the whole day. But empathetic words would be, oh, you're so tired. I feel the same way when I have to do work and I didn't get enough sleep. So maybe, what you can do is you can, for the next day, do a better thing. Abdullah gets low grades on the report card. So angry words would be, why don't you do your homework and now you come home with such low grades? That ought to teach you a lesson. And empathetic words would be, oh, how awful. During my studies, I felt bad when I got those such grades. So empathy, understand. And I would end up with this, kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So let me look into your questions now. Some of them I answered, and I'm going to move on. There is a question, says, my 18-year-old daughter, when she's not allowed to go out with her friends without a parent being present, she says, I'm the only parent who wants, I'm the only person who wants a chaperone. Bilkul. My kids also say the same thing. They would say that all the parents give they allow their kids to do whatever they want to, and you want to like always escort us, or like keep watch on us, you don't trust us. And I just smile and I say, I don't give them explanation that you don't know, you're going out in a jungle and the people and they're very clever and you're so innocent. I don't give them any detail. I just look at them and say, if you want to go, that's the only choice you have. Yes, inshallah. My slides are over here, and if anyone, if you want, I will be inshallah sharing it with the organizers. Okay, Faiza says, my 14 and 10 years are not motivated to do anything, वैसे, but they keep insisting screen all the time. Well, that's normal. Let them. So you use that screen to make them do everything. Like every hour when they do it, you can make a list of the tasks that you want them to do. Now, if they scream and they shout and they complain, that's when you have to maintain your calm. That's what you have to keep hugging them, loving them. You can even bring up, some articles on the from the Google, some articles, and show them and say, I love you so much, and that's why I don't want you to be on screen, because all the experts say it is so harmful for you. Sarah. Okay, my 6-year-old daughter doesn't know the way how to tell her problem. She just starts crying or starts shouting that you don't know because she can't explain herself. Well, you just sit with her, hold her hand, look into her eyes, offer her water, and tell her, I will understand if you tell me what you're trying to say. Or then you can also ask her, why don't you write it down? Probably if you write it down, that's when the things are going to be better understood by everyone. Okay, siblings dispute among teens, how to address. Oh, I showed you that screen, Asma, where I said that you don't even have to intervene. You tell them, I'm so sorry, you are grown up. I wouldn't like to interfere between the two of you. Why don't you try to resolve it yourself? And if they're not able to resolve, that's when you tell them, okay, bring the matter to me, and I'm going to give you a common consensus, what is to be done in this situation. Without taking sides, in an unbiased manner, you give them some solution. Okay, the question is, kids feel we are backwards and just allow them things which are very much common these days. Let them say that. That should not affect your relationship. Tell them, yes, that's how we are. We like to live in those times where parents have all the authority and everything, and just say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has picked the backward parents for you. So be happy with that. Sumera says, how do we know that we are maintaining a balance in being just the right bit of strict and just the right bit of lenient and easy? That's a very, very valid question. What you have to do is, first of all, you have to see age-appropriate behavior. If that, for whatever age the child is, and what the experts say should be allowed and shouldn't be allowed, are you following those norms? And in that, you have to see what is halal, what is haram. And in that, what you have to see what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. So you have to have blend of all those areas. And that's when you decide. And let's say if you opted for a certain thing and it didn't work out well, you have the veto power. You can always go back on that. You can say, yes, I allowed you a certain thing and apparently it didn't work out. So I want to change the rule because you are the president of the house. Okay, Nafisa say you can send them on WhatsApp group. Okay. which is the proper age to mold children. Every age is proper. Whenever you feel that there is something that needs to be done, so you can even mold the older kids in your house, like your husbands, and the husbands can always mold the wife by using the appropriate right techniques. My 4-year-old boy does not listen to us until it is said with anger or threat when we ask him to do something or not do what to do. Well, 4-year-old child, if you are dealing with your 4-year-old child in this manner, that's going to be really problematic for you. Really problematic for you. So what you need to do is learn about the behavior of 4-year-old child, what is an appropriate behavior, then look into the issues that your child is doing, giving you, the problem that your child is giving you, and then try to see what are the right techniques, parenting techniques for that. You know, internet is loaded with all those techniques, and you just simply have to Google and apply those techniques and see the results. Okay, my 3-year-old child starts throwing things when angry. Well, that's what anger does to us. That's why it is haram. A very simple solution to that: hold your kid's hand, look into the eyes, and in a firm manner say no. And tell the child to sit in a certain chair or a place, and tell him or her to think about the behavior, and such behavior will not be tolerated. Zero tolerance for that, whoever does it. Okay, my husband not let me do handle things with calm and with sabr. He always says it's just all because of your cool and sabr wali parenting. Well, you know what you can do is you can ask him for the logic for that. You can very nicely and calmly, without getting irritated, ask him. You can, if there is an evidence for that, please bring it up, and I would definitely change my technique. But if there is no evidence for that, then I will continue with my technique, because then you give up where you studied or where you learned to apply those techniques. Okay, if there's any other question, otherwise we will close this session for now. Yes, teenage is a time. Okay, the question is that late teens, they go reverse in all that we taught. Yes, they would. It's like a very turbulent time for them as well. So you have to learn for like 3-4 years to just sail them out of that situation. Okay, I'm getting more questions. How to keep check on 19-year-old daughter for screen time and to stop her? You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a radar system, and that radar system tells us that if you think that your kids are doing something which are not appropriate, so you can ask her, and you can keep talking to her, and you can keep every day giving her your expectations, and you can keep telling her that you have trusted her with something. And then at some time, you can, if you feel that there is some issue, you can always tell her that I'll feel very good if you share your password with me, so that I can have a look at what you are engaged in. Okay, my 10-year-old keeps teaching me what is right all the time, which irritates me. She needs perfection in everything. Well, tell them there is nothing perfect, as the only perfect being is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we will only do what is like the most appropriate thing to do in a certain situation, and then simply you can ignore it. When the kids don't, and teach them flexibility. That's one of the executive skills. Teach them flexibility, it will help. When the kids don't respond immediately, and we have to keep repeating and reminding, how do we get them to respond immediately? That will depend upon what you want them to do. For example, you want them to clean their room and they are not doing it, but after a short while they'll come to you for screen, for some permission, for some task. So then you can always look at them and say, have you done a certain thing? And then you make them do it. Or you can go in their room without shouting, screaming, getting irritated, look into their eyes and say, Assalamu alaikum, I'm talking to you. And then you make them do something that you have to do. So it's your tone, it's your body language, it's how you compose you are, which will give the message to the children you mean business, and at the very same time you want to, like, sort of take care of them, and that's when they start listening to you. Wallahi, I wish this fruitful session would never end. Jazakallah khair. We got the benefit so much from your lecture. Please recommend some lectures on how to raise Saleh and Islam loving kids, inshallah. Okay, please mention the parents' behavior among them affects kids and their behavior. Yes, parental behavior is very, very important. As I said, how parents are talking to each other. If one is saying yes, one is saying no. If they're making too many comparisons about themselves in front of the children, so what they're doing is they are making them look down on a certain parent. Like I know some of the moms who comes to me and they say, once in fact, I have this patient and this kid, he was like 10 years old, and I said something to him, the kind of the haircut or kind of the style that he was holding, and I said, this is not appropriate for your age. So he felt so angry and he was really abusive towards his mom. So I told him, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to examine you like this with this kind of behavior, this disrespectful behavior towards your mom. So he left the room and I talked to the mom. I said, I'm really concerned about your 10-year-old. And if this is the behavior right now, what is he going to do when he will be like, um, 15 or 17 years old? So the mom, she had tears in her eyes and she said that, my husband doesn't respect me. He shouts and screams at me at home. And that is why my kid is learning from the father. So that is very important that we show respect to each other and also manage ourselves. My son is very emotional whenever he gets a challenging situation in studies. He gets scared and confused, restless, and cries though we approach him very friendly. He's 12 years old. Sadaf, for that, you have to teach him emotional intelligence. You have to teach him how to emotionally stay calm and manage your situation. That is really, really important. And you need to do that at this age. And for that, you will get a lot of material online, how to teach emotional intelligence to children, inshallah. How to handle hyper child, don't be hyper yourself. And for hyper children, you have to also identify the age of the child. Like 4-year-old child would be hyper. Like these days when kids are stuck inside, they would be hyper. When you're giving them chocolates, candies, junk, they will be hyper. When you're giving them screens, they will be hyper. So first you have to identify what is making him hyper, and then you have to think of how you can utilize his energy in the best possible manner. As parents, we have in mind that we should be respected, so how to ignore or handle their attitude? Uh, Actually, we are living in these times when disrespect is taken as a norm, and especially when kids are among their peers, that's what is happening. And there are a lot of parents who are not able to handle their children well and not able to give them the right parameters of respect. So our children, no matter how much you're trying to give them the right principle, they are taking impacts from the society. Then if you look at a lot of seasons and shows and things, stuff, movies they watch on screen, even the dramas and whatsoever, they show a lot of disrespect, they generate this disrespect for adults. So what you have to do is you have to continuously neutralize that, continuously keep telling them, and inshallah, once they sail out of this age, they will learn all these parameters, and we are hopeful from our Rabb that he is going to guide them towards the right path and have them practice all these skills, inshallah. Okay. Okay, Nafisa, you're talking about your granddaughters, mashallah. Okay, so we are done. I would take a leave from you. Jazakallah khairun. I'm really blessed to have such energetic audience. And I really enjoyed my last session, and I'm really enjoying this session because I love it, when you are sort of, putting up all these challenging questions. And I hope that inshallah in future we will keep having more sessions. And that is going to benefit a lot of you, inshallah. And I'd like to put in my share. How can we get the Desi fathers on board? Tell them to listen to this session or listen to whatever parenting session they want to, because most of these parenting sessions are going to teach them those basic things. So inshallah, now I will close this session with du'as, lot of du'as for all of you. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.